Into Champions League for game number 1 between Saint and Snake here. Already Rek'Sai has been banned up by Saint, whereas Snake are going to be taking away Talia. Lissandra will be the second man coming out from the blue side. Saint as Snake, they'll be on the red side here today, Frosco.
The fact that Talia is being banned, though, I mean, we've kind of seen her hit and miss a little bit on that ban bench, but it kind of goes back to this idea that Otto will play the kind of fringe picks. He'll try to catch you off guard in a matchup that maybe you're not as comfortable in. So ban him out because he's the primary threat on the Saint roster right now, at least the most explosive one.
Well, the final ban that comes out from Saint is going to be an Alistar, whereas Snake's still sticking to banning out all of these champions that Otto has previously played. LeBlanc was that second ban, and Vladimir is going to be the final ban that comes out from Saint. That Snake that leaves Malzahar open for Saint's first pick.
Yeah, and that's the big sore thumb sticking out is, of course, with LeBlanc, Talia being taken up on the red side. It does mean that Malzahar is there for the priority pick. Otto goes ahead, locks it in. We have not seen Malzahar played in the top position yet. It's only been played top in Korea, I believe.
We'll have to see if Saint do flex that one, but immediately Flandre goes ahead and locks in Gangplank as his pick for Snake. We'll have to see if they do flex that one into the mid lane. SOFM immediately takes Gragas.
So Flandre is a long-time Gangplank player, and one of the answers to Malzahar is that Gangplank. Not only does he do decent across from the lane if they do happen to match up, but more importantly, it's this idea of zone control. Malzahar has to be stationary to unload all of his damage with his ultimate, and Gangplank doesn't even need to be in the fight to disrupt that with his cannon barrage. Obviously, it won't actually stop him from doing his ultimate because it's not a displacement, but Malzahar doesn't want to stand in the cannon barrage and go through the full duration of the Nether Grasp.
Yep, you're going to have a bad time if you do just that, Frosco. On the flip side, Saint, they've decided to lock in Sivir as XQ's AD carry of choice.
No surprise that Sivir would be used in tandem with Malzahar. One of the few things that Malzahar is lackluster in is his ability to move around the map and to get engaged with fights. It's why he's so reliant on summoner spells like Flash and in particular that Ghost. So the Sivir will definitely help augment that with On the Hunt.
Whereas Shimmer will be locking in Kha'Zix as their jungler of choice, a champion that we see a lot in the LPL.
And this is incredibly important because right now, this composition without even their last 2 champions selected has so much monster neutral threat. Their ability to burn down dragons and barons with the isolation damage as well as the voidling damage out of Malzahar is phenomenal.
It seems like Snake know exactly what they want to do with their team composition here today against Saint, as Trundle and Jin were the instant lock-ins coming out from Tank and Martin, whereas Saint, they're locking in Janna as their support of choice immediately here for Seal, and XQ will be picking up Echo, most likely going on over towards Acorn in the top lane.
Echo in a very healthy spot, and the LPL never really fell out of favor as we're going fast and furious through this.
We certainly are. Snake know exactly what they want to play here today, Frosco, and they're going to lock in Xerath as their mid lane pick of choice for Tank.
And you have a couple of options, so it's not going to be that Gangplank that's facing across from Malzahar. It will be that Xerath, so trying to outrange him. Again, the major threat for Malzahar is that 700 cast range on his ultimate, his ability to lock you down for pretty much the length of the lane. Xerath will offer you a lot of safety, and a lot of LPL mid laners have been turning back to this guy as kind of a soft answer.
On top of that, a lot of wave clear coming out from Snake's mid laner, able to deal with the malefic visions that Otto will be placing down as Malzahar. As a very Saint-like team comp coming out from Saint here today. A lot of comfort picks for their players. Snake going back to the way they really like to play, countering out a lot of the picks that come out from Saint.
And a big thing that they're really lacking is some tankiness. You have suit-official tankiness in Echo, as well as the bonus with the shield on Janna, but otherwise they're a very squishy composition.
Take a look at the side of Snake. You can say a similar thing to them, but they do have a Trundle and a Gragas heading onto the Rift here today. We'll have to see how this one pans out as we head into game number 1 between Snake and Saint. And unfortunately, it seems like we're having a couple of technical difficulties here between Snake and Saint. These two names, you know, it's very hard to put them together here for us. I'm kind of struggling with getting them both in the same sentence.
I can tell you're going to have a lot of fun tonight with the pronunciation, Fish. But this is fine. It gives us a lot of time to kind of break down and talk a bit more about these compositions before we get into games. So we already talked about how Saint, they are lacking kind of a frontline tank or a traditional tank, if you will. They can compensate for that in their pseudo-official tankiness in champions like Malzahar Echo as well in tandem with Janna and her shield. But the fact of the matter is, it's a very Saint-esque comp in that they just loaded it down with damage, and they're just trying to dive into those backlines, and one person, instead of a 5v5, it's a 1v1v1. It's the LGD treatment. You know, instead of making a fist, they just make 5 fingers, and they just start poking people in the eye.
And you know what? When you think of Saint as a team, this is really exactly how you would want them to be drafting here today, because they have a lot of great talent on their team. It seems like when they perform individually, they exceed expectations. But as a team, they just can't quite gel together, especially when we approach the later parts of each and every game they've been playing so far.
Yeah, and I completely agree. So this composition should work out well for them. It does have a lot of ability to also create a lot of zone control and protection. You have a great front line in Echo, and I'm going to call Malzahar a front line as well. Not in the traditional sense that he can absorb damage, but he has great control in front of him with his W.
Well, we are going to be heading into game and see if Saint can pull that one off against Snake here today. It's still a tough task, Frosco, because it is going to be the last place team in Group A fighting up against the second place team in Group A.
Again, but we talked about this, LPL teams, they never really back down, even if there's nothing on the table. Sometimes they just like to have a little fun, and that typically ends up fun for us. So
it certainly does. It's definitely a pride match between Saint and Snake. They've got lots to prove. You know, Snake still want to prove that they are the second best team in their group. Saint want to try and fight back and show, you know, they are a force to be reckoned with in promotion and relegation tournament.
I mean, really, it's a momentum match for both of these teams. Like you said, going to promotion and relegation, going into playoffs. Snake historically have dropped the ball into playoffs. They look so good for a majority of the season, and then just trip right before the finish line. So made some roster adjustments every single split, trying to find that magic formula through import slots. Hopefully, this is their big break, and they'll be able to make it past 4th place.
Well, they certainly have looked good since they brought in their Vietnamese jungler, SOFM. He's had a huge impact to Snake, not only the way he plays, but also the way the team has been trying to play around him, it seems. Trying to assist him when he goes in for these aggressive jungle invades.
And that's the key word there, aggressive. SOFM has certainly set the standard in kind of bizarre pathing, so we'll keep an eye on him and see how he impacts this early game, especially on a champion like Gragas. But all eyes then also have to be on Chimin across from him. Will Chimin decide to take the route where he hyper farms this Kha'Zix into level 6, or will he try to get off some early pressure in early ganks to match SOFM's pace?
Well, if there's one person we can look to try and keep up with SOFM, it is Chimin, who had a fantastic start when he joined not only HYG, but now Saint when he came back onto the roster. A massive improvement for the team. As we are going to see standard lanes from both Saint and Snake already in the mid lane, though. Otto trading back and forth really aggressively against Tank Xerath.
I don't even think that's a trade. That's Otto just clearly winning. He is repeatedly punching Xerath in the face, and this is an issue with Xerath and why he really hasn't come full swing back in the meta. He's more niche than he is viable, is that his trades, especially early game, are very lackluster and very mana dependent.
However, we will still see that extra long range coming up from Tank later on in the match. I have to see if we can use that effectively against the shorter range Malzahar. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, it is the Sivir Janna going up against the Jin Trundle. Haven't seen too much of Janna this year, Frosco. So yeah, it's interesting to see Shield picking this one up.
We'll touch right on that very quickly, but meanwhile, top lane, Acorn's in a whole world of trouble.
He certainly is. SOM's trying to wrap around this Echo. Flandre's already got a couple of barrels down. Acorn's got absolutely nowhere to go. He's trying to get executed here, but he's not going to be taken down by that turret, as it will be Flandre picking up first blood.
I mean, rock in a hard place. He effectively had to choose, am I giving this to Gragas, the tower, or Gangplank? He ends up giving it to his lane opponent, so worst case scenario. In response, Chimin's trying to take blue, but he's being caught out by Jay-Z.
Yeah, Jay-Z has a word or two to say about this. Shield also rotates up to see if he can stop this one from being taken down. There's the pillar as well as an exhaust. Chimin has to be very careful. That's an aggressive JC. The flash ball for Martin. A big exhaust comes out from Shield to stop him from taking him down. But now he's in trouble. XQ's trying to join the fight as well. Jay-Z has to run for the hills. That's a ghosted up Malzahar running up. Meanwhile, top lane, Acorn, he's in trouble again. Flandre doesn't get the barrel connected. He actually flashes forward. But bottom lane, it is going to be finally. The Trundle gets taken down. The Echo gets taken down top top lane. You are not lying to us, Frostcone. This is definitely a prime match between the two teams.
Chaos across the map. We said LPL teams will never back down. They will always have fun. It doesn't matter if the match doesn't mean anything because they are here to play. It's Snake victory in the top side, Saint victory in the bottom side, and more importantly, it's Chimin being put behind and Flandre being put ahead.
It certainly is, and that was a chaotic battle between the two teams. SOFM doing what SOFM does right now as he heads straight in towards Chimin's jungle. Chimin spots this one's out. Thanks, Gragas, for the leash and takes the Grump down for himself. Top side of the map, you can already see Flandre is trying to freeze that wave against Acorn, who currently has no more summoner spells to deal with this gameplay, who immediately goes back to base and picks up a Sheen for himself.
Yeah, Flandre is definitely in a very healthy spot right now, and these trades are only going to get worse for Acorn, which is actually something that Echo's very good at right now. He feels very confident in his lane matchups individually, just because of his Q, his safety in an elongated lane due to how mobile he is. So he should still be okay in terms of farming, but cannot go toe-to-toe with this Gangplank. And more importantly, Flandre having that experience advantage, participating in more kills, means that the rest of the map needs to be cautious of that Cannon Barrage ultimate incoming.
We did see a lot of Echo after MSI, especially in the LPL, being played up in the top lane, sometimes in the mid lane. He got nerfed slightly.
The LPL never dropped the Echo. They have always been riding this train. He's in a better spot because itemization certainly hurt him when there was tweaks there, but definitely kind of back in full swing and reigning king, especially with his new project skins.
Well, speaking of itemization, we'll have to check in with Acorn later to see if he does go for that frozen... not Frozen Fist. What's it called? Iceborne Gauntlet, or if he goes for the Trinity Force instead as his Sheen item of choice.
You know, I'll take it. It's a Frozen Fist. It was close enough. It's like charades.
It was close. I was gonna
5 points.
I was going to say Frozen Heart there. I realized that is not the item I was looking for. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Tank going up against Otto. Otto definitely looked like he was the one winning the trade war, but it certainly is Tank that's winning the CS war at the moment, well, 44-29.
Yeah, and the big issue was the fact that Otto had to swing over and assist Chimin and trying to contest that blue buff with SOFM expending so much time into the top side. And we said, you know, SOFM, he's going to be a very aggressive jungler. He's going to gank a lot. Now looking at the mid lane.
He's going to be looking towards Otto. The stun did miss from Tank, but a good body slam comes out from SOFM. Cannon Barrage just to secure that one as well, and Snake pick up another kill.
Yeah, 6 minutes on the mark for that level 6 Gangplank. It wasn't needed, but it does help Flandre pick up an assist, I believe. No, I actually don't think he got anything from that because he's already participated in 2 kills. But again, Otto has been put behind because he was trying to assist Chimin. Chimin tried to go the hyper carry route. He couldn't match SOFM's aggression on the top side ganks. He tried to steal the blue buff, and now everything has gone wrong for Saint's bottom side of the map, and it's starting to leak into the mid lane matchup as well as the jungle. Snake, full control of tempo.
They certainly do have full control of that tempo as they are now 1,700 gold up ahead of Saint very early on into the match. And this is the part of the game where Saints really look to shine, which is that early game, especially when they get standard lanes against teams.
Lane phase is where Saint thrive. It's win lane, win game. That's pretty much the only playbook they have available to them. And right now, Snake just bleed teams out in the jungle, and SOFM is having his way with Chimin.
He certainly is. SOFM is slightly behind in terms of CS, which we don't usually see, but he has been impacting the map quite significantly on his Gragas.
It's really the difference between the fact that he's 1-0 and 2 to compensate for that 6 CS difference, which isn't massive in the jungle, and he'll surely make that up.
Meanwhile, on the top side of the map, Chimin looking to see if he can try and equalize this lane a little bit for Acorn.
Power farmed, got his level 6, so he can stealth into the back of this lane.
Whereas Flandre looks like he's being a little bit cautious here. SOFM is on the top side of the map as well, so he can respond. But Chimin is looking to try and get up there first. He's now moving through the river.
I think the more appropriate gank for Chimin right now is to actually look mid in tandem with Otto's ultimate.
Well, for now, he's jumping straight on top of Flandre. Acorn's going to slow him down. The Gangplank's in trouble. The Pirates is taking a beating here as Chimin the Bug takes him down in the top lane.
So they do end up finding the 2v1. That could have been very dangerous, though, because if SOFM had shown up, they would have lost simply because Flandre is so far ahead. But good call for Chimin. You know, I have to even out Acorn. He's the carry of this team. He consistently shows up for us. I need to get him back on the right foot.
Well, Acorn is about 10 CS behind Flandre at the moment. Still sitting on his Dark Seal as well as the Corrupting Potion. We'll have to see what he picks up when he does finally head back to base. Was not able to get the kill in that top lane exchange. It was Chimin that picked that one up. But still, a great person to pick it up for the Saint team. Chimin is another one of those carries on their team. Otto is still taking a beating in this mid lane, though, against Tank. just trying to farm wherever he can. He's now 20 CS behind the Xerath.
Needs to be very careful. Saint very clearly want to make the gank on tank right now. You still have that Malzahar ultimate available.
Cannon Barrage actually comes out as well as the Xerath's ultimate. He gets 2 shots onto Otto in a row in a very quick snipe coming out from Saint.
And the theme of this game so far is, again, rock in a hard place. You have the AoE Cannon Barrage closing off his tower. He has to cut into a tiny little narrow corridor, and it's shooting fish in a barrel for tank.
A really early game, great start for Saint so far. I mean, Snake, as they are now 2,000 going up ahead of Saint. Tank winning in CS, getting multiple picks here as Chimin just gets body slammed here by SOFM.
They knew that he was on the top side of the map because they had placed deep vision in the jungle. SOFM just waits for him to come around the corner, and Saint are bleeding at every end.
They certainly are. It looked like their bottom lane was going great after the over-aggressiveness coming out from Jay-Z. Top side of the map, already won here by Flandre. Chimin's trying to do what he can to save that one. And now it's just SOFM styling on people in the jungle.
Styling is the perfect word for it, Fish, because this is a 3k gold difference at 9 minutes, 10 minutes in this game. That's absurd.
And once again, like we said earlier, you know, laning phase is really where Saints are strong, as Akorn is going to take a barrel to the face by Flandre here. He is not looking good in this matchup at the moment.
And reminder, this is 6.14, so Saint should theoretically get buffed on 6.15 as they head into the promotion tournament. As I say that, though, hold on. SOFM wants this blue buff,
he does have a ward. He's going to try and see if he can get over, but Chimin is able to take the one down, uses his smite to collect the blue buff.
But it is very important that they did deny it off of Otto and his Malzahar. Now, that said, Chimin on the Kha'Zix does get a lot out of the blue buff. He's a more mana-hungry jungler, as well as really makes use of that CDR, but SOFM might take it off his body.
Yep, he wants it back. SOFM already being rather aggressive in the jungle here. Lands a good barrel onto the bug.
But he doesn't have Cask, and that's the big difference, although that cooldown is ticking down quite quickly.
Certainly is. Someone almost has that ultimate back up and online, just trying to mirror Chimin's movements here, trying to force him out of his own jungle. Gets another good barrel down again on towards him.
He's about to squash him. Chimin has to completely back off, and now they're looking mid.
He's looking straight towards the Malzahar first, see if he can take down this mid lane. Another cannon barrage as well as the ultimate comes out from Jin. SOM just rocks up and finds a random shield now. He gets exhausted as he flashes over the red buff wall, trying to get to safety. And SOFM just immediately goes back into Saint's side of jungle, decides he wants to farm this one up.
And Snake are playing around their cooldowns beautifully. Now, Snake actually have a history playing with poke compositions, with the Jhin, the Xerath, as well as, I'm going to call the Gangplank a poke involved. And it's really anytime the Gangplank ultimate is up, Snake are proactively looking for a play on the map.
Speaking of being proactive, SOFM is able to move straight in towards Saint's side of jungle, takes down red buff himself, denying even more resources away from Chimin. Has already been trying to close up the CS deficit that he had against the Kha'Zix by denying as many of those jungle camps as possible. He immediately moves towards his blue buff. That should be given over towards Tank, who is moving towards it.
He's got a lot of range on that Xerath, so SOFM's just going to do the polite thing. But SOFM has said in interviews how important it is for him to get ahead in his jungle and then impact the rest of the map. So in games like this where everything just goes right for Snake, they never let up. It's just pedal to the metal. They continue to run you over and drive you off a cliff. It's really when Snake are put behind, when SOFM doesn't get the initial gank, that things start to go sideways.
That's a big ultimate that comes out from SOFM. Doesn't connect with Otto. Suddenly, there's 3 members of Saint into this mid lane. They're able to pick off the over-aggressive jungle. A teleport gets cancelled by Flandre, and Saint get a return kill.
Flandre almost gave me a heart attack, though. I wasn't sure he was going to cancel this teleport. I was like, mate, that's 3 men.
But hang on, Otto, he's trying to dodge as much as he can away from Tank. He landed that first ultimate. The third one's not going to connect. He's trying to land the Q as well. Otto actually had to use Ghost to try and juke that one away from the Xerath.
Blue suede shoes, just breakdancing in mid lane.
Well, if there's anyone that can breakdance in this game, it is that Malzahar.
He's got a sick dance emote.
He certainly does. As Shu and Jay-Z not able to lock down the Janna, but there's an ultimate being burnt there by the Trundle. Shu just gets deleted from Summoner's Rift as Tank rotates down towards the red buff.
And suddenly this Xerath is 4-0-1 almost out of nowhere. Tank has been a primary benefactor of so much attention. This bot lane roaming, I think, twice now into the mid lane to just set up kills.
And they've been doing that fantastically. Snake are now 3,500 gold up again ahead of Saint. And kind of like what you said earlier, Frostkern, you know, Snake are a team where if they fall behind early, that's where they just start to bleed even further and further and fall even further and further behind. And that involves ahead lanes collapsing onto this aggressiveness from their rotating bot lane and jungler.
And it's because Snake have one speed, much like Saint. We knew that we were going into this game, no matter that it didn't mean anything, it was going to be fast, it was going to be explosive, because that's these teams' identities. They never slow down. If they're going to lose, they lose in style. They burn everything behind them.
Well, it's been 13 minutes into this game. We already have 10 kills split between Saint and Snake. Already a bloodbath, especially in that mid lane. Tank is now 4-0-1, has already gone back to base, picked up his Morellonomicon. Flandre's been able to pick up his Trinity Force as well, so a big item power spike for the Gangplank, who uses that cannon barrage on towards XQ in the bottom lane, just trying to clear up the wave and stop Saint from picking up that first turret.
A 14-minute Trinity is fairly absurd. Big power spike for Snake, although with that cooldown down, it does make it a little bit more difficult to approach this dragon if they want to force it, but Malzahar, goodbye.
He's going to get locked down here. Tank is also going to get jumped on, though, by Icon, but Otto gets taken down first. Chimin flies into the mid lane to return the kill and get revenge for his mid laner. All in all, they trade 1-1.
Yep, best case scenario is that they did manage to get the trade. However, they also lost a lot of time up into that top lane. Flandre is continuing to get farther and farther ahead because he's just shoving wave after wave into the tower, and Acorn is losing more and more resources.
On the bottom lane, XQ and Shield get some good damage off on towards Martin on his Jhin. This bottom lane has been a fairly quiet lane between the two teams here. A single kill and over towards XQ. Jhin is about 10 CS behind as well, so that's kind of the saving grace between Saint and Snake.
I mean, quiet in the sense that they haven't been fighting each other.
Yes.
Constantly, though, these bottom lanes are playing around this mid lane. You can see Sivir's like, oh, we just got to speed up Malzahar into the Xerath. Oh, God, there's 20 people here. Snake have already collapsed on us. Meanwhile, of course, like you said, Martin making his way constantly up that river, opening up the Jhin ultimate and setting up more kills for Xerath, applying that slow and making it easier for him to land his ultimate.
Well, we are 15 minutes into the match. These two teams about 4,000 gold behind. XQ now getting jumped on by the Kurtzakol. Uses his on the hunt and pops his blue sage. Chooses to try and run, but the final crit shot coming out from Martin takes him down. The sniper finds the Sivir, and Saint are another kill behind.
Can't breakdance quite as well as Malzahar right there, but more impressive, Martin just killed him with only 2 bullets. I mean, obviously one of them was the crit, but that was pretty absurd damage since Sivir was about just over 50% health.
And even popped that Yomu's Ghostblade just before he went into the Kurtzakol, getting that little bit extra 80 to help him out with that final shot. XQ on the other side of the map has gone back to base, picked up his Infinity Edge for himself on the Sivir. So a big power spike for him, and it's a build that we've been seeing a lot of AD carries pick up on Sivir recently.
Typically, it signifies that Saint want to fight for the dragon, itemizing into that battle stat for the crit so they are ready for the big 5v5 scenario. But with losing control over their bottom lane, we'll see if they're going to continue to try to pressure that objective. And I believe it's only a Mountain Drake.
It is a Mountain Drake, and without pressuring any objective here on the map, Snake have already put themselves 5,000 gold ahead, and it's only approaching 17 minutes into this match. Neither team has really looked towards it. As now XQ not able to spell shield in time. Thunderlords will come out from the gangplank. Sivir just runs away with barely any health. Flandre almost takes him down all by himself.
There's nothing XQ can do. He pretty much walked across the map to farm, get chunked out, and return to base, which means that not only, again, is Flandre shoving another wave into Saint's tower that no one's farming, but Snake have full control over the bottom side of the map now.
They've got some good pink wards placed down towards the Dragon Pit. Chuman now looking to try and take down Red Buff for himself, but they don't look towards the Mountain Dragon. Instead, they look straight towards Otto. He's getting locked down by the Jhin, flashes straight into it, gets body slammed by SOFM, and a celebratory ult comes out from Tank straight on top of himself as soon as he takes down the mid lane Xerath.
And Snake fans need to be applauding their team right now. Snake, again, historically have been one of the few LPL teams where they try to pick up poke compositions, but the thing is they never layer the poke. They just play things like Corki mid, Corki 80 carry, and they just ram into 5v5 and then lose. So it's always been like this double-edged sword. Like, Snake, we know that you want to play the poke composition, but you don't really know how. It looks so much cleaner now, this iteration of the Jhin, Xerath, Gragas, Gangplank poke, and they're executing on it brilliantly. So good news for Snake fans heading into playoffs.
Certainly looks great for Snake. Not Saints, as they do move straight down towards the bottom lane after picking up the Mountain Dragon. Jay-Z does get locked down by the Parallel Convergence. Martin in a bit of trouble, though, as they try to peel Acorn off him, but that's a big ultimate coming out from the Echo to get straight back on top of Snake's 80 carry. Now SOFM looking to try and hunt him down, but you do have the remaining members of Saint chasing on throughout the red side buff of the jungle.
And despite the attention that Acorn got from SOFM the early game, he's still the only saving grace on this roster right now.
He did go back to base and pick up a Trinity Fells on this Echo, so lots of damage coming out from him as SOFM finds a Kha'Zix waiting inside of his jungle, simply body slams over the wall, even uses his ultimate to secure his Gromp. If there's one thing that SOFM really likes, Frostgreen, it is that Gromp camp on the top side of the map, though. XQ is able to go toe-to-toe against Flandre and take the Pirate down. Oh, that's one. Oh, that's going to be two, and Tank just snipes him back in return. Gets vengeance for his top laner.
1-for-1 trade. In the end, though, Saint do manage to pick up a tower, so getting a little bit closer to Snake, who's still leading them with 3, although that top-tier tower is waiting for a stiff breeze to take it down.
And it will fall shortly here. As currently, Snake, they've been able to take down 3 outer turrets from themselves with 1 swift motion, as well as controlling the dragon for themselves. It was a mountain dragon that popped up first. Baron is going to be coming up in 35 seconds as well, so a big objective for Snake to look to try and control.
So right now, recap about where the power is located on both of these teams. Kha'Zix is still in a pretty good position, has his Hex Drinker, so he's not in a lot of threat from this really fed Xerath, although the hard CC, the suppression there is still going to be scary. And Sivir, XQ, is still in a very good spot. Otto right now just needs to sit back, 0, 5, and 3 on the Malzahar. That's fine. Hit your 2-item power spike. Be that zone control that your team needs you to be. Be that hard CC.
Tell you what, Frostgreen, he has been sitting back here, but not so much relaxing. He's 0-5 at the moment, as well as 75 CS behind this Seraph. He is not having a good game.
To be fair, it's been about 1v4 in that mid lane, so...
I'll give him a 2v4, you know, chip in sometimes there.
That was definitely...
He tries to help him, you know, picks up the revenge kills once in a while. But that's about it, as now Shield is going to get a bit of that mid lane treatment. That's 4-on-1 there, as Snake punished the mid lane, take him down, and now look to try and push for that mid lane inner turret.
And the scary thing about this composition is once it's ahead, it sieges towers surprisingly well. Not in the fact that, you know, Xerath and Jhin are actually pretty poor at chipping away at the tower, but their threat and their reach past the tower to force teams to leave their objectives or to get poked off their objectives.
Well, Snake are looking to try and push through here against Saint. Already got the mid lane inhibitor down to half health. Forced a teleport to be cancelled by Acorn as he stays on the top side of the map and takes down the top lane outer turret for himself.
And they definitely have the power to do that if they want to be patient, but I like the fact that they are still respecting Saint's composition, their hard CC, their assassination potential. But we're closing in on a 10k gold difference at around 22 minutes. They're about 3k off. That's, again, absurd.
It certainly is here, as Xerath is just continuing to lay down the hurt in this mid lane to any champion from Saint that shows up on his radar. And just continues to try and shove this one out, maintaining control of that mid lane for Snake. Saint now just looking to try and find farm wherever they possibly can, just to try and get back into this game, as XQ getting jumped on by that Xerath ultimate, but he's able to juke away from it quite effectively this time round.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if he picks up the kill right there, but Tank's pretty much going to use that ultimate anytime it's off of cooldown. It's really about now watching Tank and Jhin, how they use their ultimates to set up chase potential on the map. Snake should be looking around this Baron right now, although, again, if there's going to be a scenario that puts Saint back in it, it would be a Baron steal.
So he took a look at the SOFM on his favorite side of the jungle, the enemy's jungle. Takes away a blue buff for himself. Acorn tries to spot out to see if Snake are going for a cheeky Baron attempt by popping down the parallel convergence. But instead it'll just be Raptors who gets taken away by SOFM. Does get the Raptor sense, looking to try and control even more vision for Snake. As Acorn now has to be the one that has to be careful here. And again, 3 members in this mid lane looking to try and shut him down. He gets double stun locked there. Has to use the ultimate to get some health back and get away from Tank. SOFM charges forward, gets a body slam down. Tank gets the final Q off of Xerath to take down the Echo.
Hey, Acorn, you're not invincible, buddy. Quite overextended, obviously still doing decent damage when he has Martin, but certainly testing his luck, and just an easy collapse from Snake. They have complete control of the map, complete control of tempo. It's now, when do they pull the trigger on the Baron, or are they going to continue to use their poke composition for siege purposes on these outer towers? Inner towers.
When do they pull the trigger? They've been pulling it non-stop. They're holding a machine gun right now, Frostgreen, and the bullets do not stop. They're just automatically reloading every single time they have a new objective on their sights, and looking to try and push for that top lane in a turret with 2 massive ultimates. Otto's in trouble, has to flash away. Xerath's ultimate's trying to connect. He's using the ghost to run, but it's a double kill that comes out from SOFM, denying that sweet ulti from Tank. Snake as Jay-Z picks one up for himself as well by taking down the XQ.
There's too many circles. It's a Venn diagram of murder. They can't stand anywhere. There's like a triangle opens up, Gen Ultimate comes through, you dodging the dunks from Xerath coming through, then there's just a massive Gangplank ultimate.
I tell you what, this is the furthest away I've seen people die from the next champion that was on their screen. That was a 100-meter distance between the two of them there. And Snake, after taking down the top lane in the turret as well as those 3 kills, moves straight towards the Baron. They're going to be able to take that one down nice and quickly.
Which, again, the only way to really beat this composition is to get on top of it. But let's take a look at all those circles. So there's one circle, there's a big triangle, there's some more smaller circles, just dunking on them. The thing is Saint, the only way they win here is if they get on top of Snake. Because again, Xerath and Jin are very fragile, but they stand really far back. It's about a race to get there. And that's why the Trundle and the Gragas are such key components. They are the core of that composition. You need the reset potential with the cask, although SOFM has been using it as engage, and you need the disengage of the Trundle pillar to make sure that Xerath and Jin continue to have safety back there.
I mean, if you took a look at the damage dealt during that fight, Saints, they had 3 members that did 0 damage, and one of the people that did damage was Jana, and that was just only 44. They can't get that close at the moment, Frosco.
They literally died on their Nexus fountains. I don't know what to tell you, Fish.
And meanwhile, on the side of Snake, it was actually SOFM that came up second there after, I want to say secured the kill away from Tank, who had one final ultimate that was going to lay down the pain onto the Saint roster. But they're looking really good. 8-1-3 for Tank. Rabadon's, Rylai's, Merrill, Nomicon. The rest of the map has huge item power spikes. Dustblade being picked up by Flandre as well. They are flexing their muscles here, Frosco.
Yep, and with this Baron buff complete, it does mean that they're going to be storming Saint's base. Again, their composition is beautiful at sieging towers with all of the poke combined as well as their AoE zone control.
Certainly is. It's now Snake looks to try and siege the mid lane and bottom lane, already rushing through onto the mid lane inhibitor turret. That goes down. Martin still has a crit shot available as well, which means this inhibitor is going to fall shortly after for Snake, as they do have 4 members pushing on towards this one. Gangplank can join them with a moment's notice, but you can already see how much zone of pressure Snake are commanding in this game as they move straight back down towards the bottom lane.
Saint, your options are running out. You have one last desperation.
Well, that's not going to be enough because SOM picks up the kill into Otto again, executes the target of the double snipers coming out. There's the barrage of cannons coming out from Flandre just to zone them even further. All Saint can really do here, Frosco, is just run around in circles trying to avoid all of these sniper shots that come out from Snake.
And we knew this was going to be a dominating performance from Snake. Again, 2nd place in Group A versus last place in Group A, but not a 26-minute stomp.
Well, they're looking to try and close this one out. Akon trying to do what he can to keep his team alive, but he's been taken down. Executes the next target, exhausted and deleted as Stu has to flash away from all the murder options that come out from Snake. The Nexus turret has fallen, and with a very dominant game, Snake will be able to pick up the victory over Saints.
That was just a kaleidoscope of damage, and Snake, again, we expected that they would have the upper hand of this game. They're the favorites going in, but in such a dramatic fashion and with such a very cool composition. Beautifully executed. This is a momentum gain, and they're full steam ahead for playoffs.
They certainly are. They looked great. It was a very unique composition that Snake pulled out here, and it worked so well for them. I mean, you said the way that Saint could really come back into the game, the way that Saint could really try and fight this team competition is to get on top of them. But Snake never let that happen. They never let Saint get within a screen's distance away from their carries.
There's a beautiful love story here with Snake, and it starts with Xerath. It's a little bit before your time, Fish, but Snake and Xerath, it does not matter if Baka is their mid laner, if Yu is their mid laner, or if Tank is their mid laner. This champion was made for this team. Snake are one of the few LPL teams that like to play poke compositions, and now they've proven that not only do we like to do it, but we can do it.
I'll tell you what, Frosco, and it may have been a little bit before my time, but I've watched enough of Pastry Time when he used to cast the LPL to know that whenever there was a Xerath horror for Snake, it is always a possibility no matter who they were playing, and they get to play it here today. And it was a big factor to how they picked up their victory. We talked a lot about the team comp, but the way they executed, like you mentioned, was great coming out from them, and it was really picky on their mid lane.
Yeah, and again, we've talked about this time and time, that Snake played to the ceiling that Tank, it's always hard. Snake and Tank, that Tank is set up for. When he's 7-0-4 on Xerath, Snake are going to go off, Tank went off. Beautiful Xerath play, beautiful Jhin play.
It certainly was, and with that, Snake were able to set up Tank for success from that game number 1, giving them a huge advantage with picking up the victory over Saint. We're going to go into a very quick break, but we will be back in game number 2 in just a bit.